Testing. Did I go live? Alright, cool. I think I went live. I think we're good. Excellent. I have to quickly pull up the chat here, and then we're good. I always panic about doing this, just because what's it called? Because I'm not used to using the... what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not used to using the profile option on OBS. So I have an It Gets Better profile set, and I wanted to make sure that I had that going. So I think we're all good here. Alright. Awesome. So now we're here. We're good. Like I said, nice and easy, seamless transition. Look at that. And yeah, so if you are somebody who isn't sure what we're doing here, hi, my name is Baeginning. My pronouns are she, her. Some people you'll see in the chat call me Chloe. I am going to be chatting today about my, transition over the past 5 years that I've been pretty much going through that, because tomorrow's a big day for me. I am going to be starting injections, hormone injections, and, that's something that means a lot to me to be able to do, and I think that it's almost like this next milestone, and this next, big thing. And so I want to be able to look back on, kind of everything that I've been through, especially as a content creator. And, if people just have questions or anything that they want to ask, by all means they can. But we're going to be doing that while also doing a little bit of Pokemon shiny hunting, because I haven't shiny hunted in a month. And I thought, hey, now's as good a time as any to get back into it. And normally I would start the stream. This is such a cool idea. I have loved working on this channel. It's one of my favorite things that I have been able to say that I've done as a content creator. It Gets Better has also just helped me with wanting to be more vocal overall. I now come with this more education vibe and trying to really emphasize certain things, and I think it's really helped over time. So let me swap our scene over here and get into some Pokemon Violet. I kid you not, I haven't really opened this game, and let's think here, maybe 3 weeks? I know Greninja was a raid Pokemon, and I didn't even bother to go do the raid for it. Which just goes to show you how, little desire I initially had. But it's fine. It is all fine. So yeah, I have been... At this point, I'd say the best way to start is my junior year of college. You guys know Greninja shiny hunting for us? No Masuda method, but I can go for this Florges here. So let's do that. So, my junior year of college was the first time I had met somebody who was trans. And I was playing... It's funny because if you came in from the raid, I was playing a Naruto game. Notice how Naruto has a lot to do with, my life. But yes, I was playing a Naruto game. And in my, Shinobi clan, I had befriended somebody. And they were trans. And that was, my first time, really learning about pronouns. And just overall, And now when I say learning about pronouns, I mean, my first time interacting with somebody who wasn't using their assigned pronouns at birth. So that was the first time I had to train myself to use different pronouns. And when I befriended them, I got very close with them to the point where I started to think about a lot of just like my past and like experiences, you know, never really wanting to do whatever the assumed guy thing to do was. I always wanted to, I can look back as far as when I was like 5 years old. The girls were playing with the Polly Pockets, and I wanted to hang out there with them. Did I ever ask to buy any? No. But you know what I did ask to buy? I went into Limited 2, if any of you remember that store, and I would go in there to buy Neopets. I had an obsession. I actually found out recently that I still have my Neopets. Like, most of those Neopets that I own, I still have as like a little plush. They're in a vacuum sealed bag in a closet. But while we were going through that closet, because we were trying to look for Beanie Babies to see if there were anyone's valuable. This is a tangent to what I'm talking about today, but still. I ended up finding that in the bin. And I had thought we had gotten rid of them, but I guess we didn't. So yeah, tangent aside, I ended up started looking at everything about my life and going like, huh, maybe there's something here. And I looked into it more. It's funny because like Thurindas was talking about how they took like an I am gay test. And I don't know if anybody else did something similar. I definitely took a what gender are you test. Just, you know, because I didn't know what else was out there for me. But I spent a lot of time like looking back on things. And Juke, thanks for following. It gets better. I hope you're doing well, Juke. And so I remember I was on there, or looking at everything, and I was like, okay, I think there's something here. And I was not comfortable at first at all when it came to like, even like self-accepting. I think I was my own worst enemy when it came to coming out at the start, because I spent a month pretty much being like, there's no way this is me. Surely that's not it. And then I would go into the thoughts of, but what if it's not me? And I went through all this effort to tell family. First of all, that doesn't matter as a forward for anybody who wants or is thinking about coming out. If you don't end up saying the pronouns that you tell somebody for, it's okay, because they don't have to be a permanent change. But back then, I obviously wasn't as educated in it to know these things. And so I remember I beat myself up so much over, no, this isn't you. Just accept that this is, you know, going to be an idea that you're just thinking about, and there's no basis to it. And, you know, I think the thing that helped me the most was I sat there and I was like, no human is going to stress about something for a month like this unless there's merit, in the sense that there's probably something there. And that sort of cognizant mental change allowed me to go forward with officially, like, you know, telling people. I had one friend in college who I came out to very early on because she was the one that I always hung out with. Shout out to my friend Erin, because Erin was very important for just allowing me to feel comfortable. I remember she was so like, this is so exciting. I can't wait to go graduation dress shopping with you, and being all like cute about it, because Erin was somebody who we had been in the same, they call it like community, where you would start off your freshman year in the same group of classes with people so that you can make friends. You know what's hard as a non-binary person? You can understand how I feel. Yeah, it's such a hard mental shift to allow yourself, and let alone also just telling people. But Erin was somebody who like genuinely wanted the best for me. She was actively trying to, you know, she was also one of the only people that knew I was streaming. Granted, also, how you doing, Sammy? I hope you're doing well. She was also one of the only people that knew I was a content creator, but at the same time, I wasn't the same content creator, because this was 5 years ago. I was baby streamer, less than 800 followers, averaged like 11 people, very different time than me, but she was like one of the only people I really let into that world. And through that bond that we were able to share there, I had that like first person who let me be comfortable. And I remember, how did you approach telling her about my pronouns and gender shift? Well, for one thing, she was always, so let's give a little backstory. Erin was somebody who was the opposite of me in college. She was the always stressing about, you know, her classes. She did multiple extracurriculars. She wanted to be on top of things. I, for better, was, hey, you're fine. You don't need to do everything like that. So we bounced off of each other really well, because our personalities in college were so different that I grounded her and she pushed me a little bit more. And so, because I had already developed a little bit of that relationship with her... Oh, is that the shiny already? Or was that just a... No, that was just a reflection. I saw the purple... Oh, wait, no, it is a shiny. Look! I wasn't lying. They were blending in with each other, but we got it. I was like, wait, no, that's the purple. But they were just so on top of each other there. But yeah, so to answer that question, I remember we would always grab lunch after our one class that we shared together. And when the time came, we were sitting there having lunch, and I was just like, hey, Erin, there's something I really need to tell somebody, and you're like the one person that I feel comfortable telling right now. And I think at first she probably thought that I like was into somebody and I wanted to talk to somebody about that. And then I was like, I think I'm trans. Because again, at that time I was still, you know, I would say think, because I wasn't like confident in myself enough to say I was. And she was just like, again, she was just excited. You just gave me a follow, Sammy? I appreciate that. She, like, so she was just talking about, like, how excited she was. She was like, awesome, I have another, you know, girlfriend. I can't, and then she would be, like, asking questions, all excited, like, so, do you think you're gonna do everything? As in, like, you know, fully transition? And, you know, I've always been, like, not heartstrong, but, like, locked in on the, yes, I want to do everything. You know, my goal by the end of this year is to get bottom surgery. So that is like a big focal point for me. But yeah, so it was in a comforting place. It was in like a public place. And it was like our usual time. So I think when I came out, I just tried to find if it's weird or feels easier to change pronouns over Twitch than it is with an IRL friend. I think Twitch helped me a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I think, because, like, the thing about Twitch was, so if this was the summer, or I started streaming summer of 2017. When I first started thinking that I was, you know, trans and starting to go through all of the thought process there was April 2017. So, in the summer was when I gravitated to Twitch, and I met my first friend, and she allowed, my first friend that's a Twitch streamer, and she allowed me that, like, comfort and that feeling of being able to actually be yourself. I think that Twitch is incredible for trying to find your pronouns and be yourself. I mean, just within our communities, as you know, there are quite a couple of people. I'm not going to name names if they don't want to, you know, call themselves out, but there are quite a couple of people who changed their pronouns for the first time because they were in our chat. And I think that that really showed a lot toward, you know, the overall comfort that people were able to have. Because I almost felt like at certain points I was, let's say, living a double life. And by that, I mean, also, we're gonna go for a fire type here. I want a, actually, maybe no, I don't want a Litleo. What do I want to, I'm gonna go around the map for a little bit while to storytelling and trying to figure out what I want to go for. So, yeah, I felt like I was almost living two different parts of me, because the me that I had on streaming was so much further along, in a sense, than the me that was IRL. You know, I think when I came out to my mom was winter of 2017, and my dad later. So by that, you know, I had spent approximately 6 or 7 months having thought all this over, and then on Twitch, I was able to be Chloe, people were pronouncing me correctly, I was playing games with people, and it was just a different experience as a whole. So I would say, to your question, yes, I do think coming out and changing your pronouns to find, like, your comfort level is a lot easier on Twitch than it is in person. But yeah, so like I was saying with my mom, I came out to her in, let's say, November or December of 2017. And I remember the first thing that she, I can remember the conversation vividly. Because she asked me, why are you growing your nails out? And in her mind at the time, she was like, maybe they're gay. And, you know, because again, that was like the common thing that a lot of people would just sort of assume over transgender 5 years ago. And, well, I pretty much just went, like, very casual about it. And I went, actually, no, I'm trans. And I just dropped it like, oh, speaking of dropping, give me a second. I apologize for that. delivery. Alright, I found it. We're good. You changed your pronouns this past year on Twitch, and it made it easier because people didn't know you, and you feel like you could be safe to be your true self. Exactly. That is something that goes such a long way. Is that feeling of, you know, being able to change it, especially because, again, Twitch is a website that, while we build relationships with some people, most of it is rather filled with anonymity. So it's a lot easier when all you have is a name instead of a face and a name, you know? Alright, I know what I'm gonna go for. I want grass types. So let's do a Skeeto here. You know your friend Tippy had a second account with her pronouns to explore before she did it on her main account? Yeah, I think that's a great idea, honestly. You know? If you're not comfortable posting it publicly, use, like, almost like a new account. No one needs to know it's your account, but, like, that allows you to explore yourself a little bit. Oh, I need to pick up lettuce if I'm gonna do a grass one. People on Twitch just inherently change names between the silliness, and it's just not, and not just more meaningful names. Yeah, I think some people genuinely like to just change their name for the memes. I am always somebody who likes my naming conventions to have meaning behind it, you know? When I chose my name Chloe, which I did like 8 months in, I was interning at my ice rink trying to think over names. And I remember I was trying to determine what I wanted to name myself, and I was sitting there, like, on my phone, scrolling. And I stumbled across the name Chloe. And Chloe means to bloom or to, like, blossom. And to me, I interpreted that as, you know, I am growing into my new person, my new me that I want people to be. I am, you know, blossoming into this era of a more confident me, the me that I want people to see. And as soon as I did that, let me tell you, I was like, this is the name. And now I get plenty of people who constantly will be like, yeah, that name really fits you. And I love that for me. Because it's like the little things that make you feel good. And sometimes people just telling me that the name that I chose fits my, like, you know, personality or however you want to describe it. It's nice. Let me put you in the box here. Yep, there you go. Alright, now we'll picnic. So, yeah, I was in my senior year of college. You know, if you've ever watched that 90s show, it came out earlier, like last month. There is a character in it. Spoilers, they are presented as gay. And I remember it because they were like, I have a 9-step process before coming out to my parents. And they were like, step 1, they were like, I'm on step 6 right now, which was telling random people that I'll never interact with that I'm gay. And it'd be like a scene where they're on the phone with the pizza delivery person, and they'll be like, I'll take a large cheese pizza, I'm gay. But, like, it legitimately helped. So I think there's actual merit to doing something like that, where you come out to people at first that you might not be having a reaction or an interaction with beyond one time. You know? If that's what helps you develop your comfort, then hey, that's a great step. And I kind of did that, where there was one person who works the front desk at the ice rink who I, came out to. And she was like the only person prior to the assistant manager. And that was like my work up to coming out to people. And by then I had told my cousin and my roommates because I was living with them. I remember one of the hardest things was telling like a group of people because I never wanted to put the attention on myself. And so I remember there was one 4th of July party with my friends where it was like early morning. There's a dozen of us hanging out in the living room. And I walk up the stairs to be like, higher than everybody. And I just go, hey, I need to tell you all that I'm trans. And I just was like, it's easier for me to tell you all here. Because, like, I had worked my way into it. I was very methodical about who I came out to. You always came out one-on-one? For a while, I was like that. I was, like, very methodical through my process. I was like, okay, my one friend, he was the president of his LGBTQIA+ club at his college. So I was like, clearly, you're somebody I can come out to. My cousin, who I had spent all my life with, was like a harder one. But I did that. I will say there are some things that I do kind of regret, but at the same time, I didn't have a more convenient option. At the time, I had a friend that was in my hometown who I played a lot of games with. And because I was living at college and he was living at his college, we wouldn't obviously see each other as much. So I came out to him on League of Legends through text. I just DM'd him and I was like, hey, this is it. Because I was like, I don't know how else to do this back then. And I think it hurt them that I did it that way. You were going to ask if I was mid-match? No. I was in the lobby. I at least gave it that. Through text, very heart to heart. I know. Look. I stand by that the hardest people to come out to are the ones that you have a deeper relationship with. Because they're the ones that you're more afraid of a negative reception from them. And I think back then, I was just afraid of losing that one friend in town. One person assumed your account was hacked. There is an actual story, too, about, like, somebody that I was friends with whose account got hacked, but I'll save that for later. But, yeah, so at that point, I had told all of my friend group. I had told my mom. I honestly don't remember how I told my dad. I think we were just out to dinner. Because my dad and I, how we would bond through middle school, high school, and college was we would just go out to dinner. We'd watch, like, whatever football game or sports game was on TV at the time. And it was like we would just have some food and enjoy ourselves for like 2 hours. And again, a place of comfort. You're gonna see this a lot where restaurants and being around food is like unironically a place of comfort for me. So it makes doing these things easier. I had told some family, and I'm not gonna lie, I had some not great reception. My oldest brother, who was somebody that I very much had a close relationship with all growing up, when I came out to him, asked me if I'm just feeling like this because it's the trendy thing, or it's the fad. To which, in his words, was, because he wanted to make sure I was serious about this or not. Which doesn't really make it better. So, that same brother also told my sister-in-law, his wife, without my permission, which annoyed the hell out of me. But, yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have perfect coming out stories with everybody. I definitely strained my relationship with my brother. But also, I come from a big family. My grandmother is one of 7 siblings. My dad was one of 4, and I am one of 4. So, I have a lot of cousins and a lot of family. And so, I had told myself early on, hey, you have a large family. There's no guarantee that everybody is going to be welcoming. And I know it's like a sad reality to have, but that acceptance allowed me to feel comfortable with coming out to more people. Because I had already determined what the worst case scenario was. And in my head, I was like, if it happens, I'm already mentally prepared. And that might not be something that works for everybody, but I know that that was something that worked for me. And so, I think I graduated college in spring 2018. Ain't no way, we got it. Let's go. The shiny Skeeto. 2 shinies already in 30 minutes of hunting. Love that for me. So yeah, it was, you know, a little bit of that, and I ended up getting to a point where I was like, okay, I know I want to start hormones, but and I still am like this, to a problem. I will say that I want something, but I will never advocate for myself for it. And what I mean by that is, I did not start hormones until I graduated, even though I had come out a year prior, and my mom was trying to genuinely push me. Just because I was bad at, you know, pushing for myself. And so, I had ended up finding somebody who would be willing to give me hormones. And I was happy about that. I had gotten that, like, first step done. Now, the unfortunate reality is you came out before you came out, you did the Zoroa illusion, attract and versus battle at school. You're there cute people here. Hi, Gabby. How you doing today? I hope you're doing well. And so, I ended up spending a fair bit of time just not pushing myself as much as I should. And so, I sat with just hormones for a while. And then I befriended my now best friend, who, quite frankly, is somebody I needed. And I know maybe not everybody is going to be the same way like this, but I don't know about you. I need a friend who's pretty much going to tell me, stop being a little baby and do the thing that you keep saying you want to do. And that's the kind of friend that she is to me. Where I need that reality check. I don't want somebody who's gonna, like, coddle me and be like, oh, you can go at your own pace. Because while that's true, that's not what I need. I need to hear the adverse. I need to hear somebody call me out on waiting too long. So, 2019, I ended up, at that point, that was the start of the pandemic, and I was working at Kohl's. And then I had quit at the start of the pandemic. Now, the reason I actually worked at Kohl's was because on their application, I was able to put legal name, but then preferred name, or what name do you want us to call you? And, you know, for me, that was the first application that I had seen with something like that. And at that point, I was like, all right, that's where I'm going to work, because nobody had to legally know me as anything else. And it felt good. And that was like my first step, really, in being out in a workplace. I worked there, I started as a seasonal cashier from September, and then worked there up until the store had closed for the pandemic in May for like 3 days. And then I went on furlough for a few months and then never came back because I just wasn't comfortable. But that was huge for me because that was me starting to dress a little bit more, even just androgynous, in a workspace environment. You know, did I get misgendered a lot? Did people read my name tag and be like, oh, Chloe, that's a unique name for a guy, even though I literally had a pin that said she, her on there? But hey, old people don't want to read the small things. They just want to read the thing that they can get the name for. So, you know, I dealt with that for like 8 months, which definitely, I think, was partially also why I wanted to come back to Twitch. Because if somebody misgendered me, I could ban them and never have to hear them again. I couldn't bark back at somebody as a cashier, because then I would lose my job. So I kind of just compartmentalized a lot of it and got there with that. You just been avoiding work, Gabby? Well, hey, I'm down for you to just listen to me hang out and avoid work. I was gonna say it's Friday, but technically no, it's just my Friday, as I am not working tomorrow. It's wild how far you've come with like your own comfort. I definitely feel like since I've met you, you've become a little bit more of a confident individual. Can it be your Friday too? Yeah, sure. Just whatever responsibilities you have actually on Friday, just be like, nah fam, it's Friday already. But yeah, so I ended up getting to, it's Friday in Australia. Thorin Das, is it Friday in Australia already? You'll tell your boss that Chloe gave you permission to be off? Exactly. There you go. And then they'll be like, who's Chloe? And you just be like, the person that matters. Yeah, it's 7:38 in the morning there. It is Friday. Oh, to be in Australia. Oh, to be in the future. You overcompensated. You sure somebody at training would flag you, so when you came out at the end, they of course said, oh. I remember I had a few friends working at Kohl's. Because the thing about working at Kohl's, especially when you took the job as a seasonal person, you had two kinds of people. you had middle-aged moms who wanted to pick up a second job as a little extra money, or you had seniors in high school / first year at college. And let me tell you, I was 22, 23 at that time, so I didn't really fit in with either group. I was done with school, but I was too young. Like, I remember they did like an employee appreciation end of the year Christmas party. Do you want to know what they themed it as? Kindergarten. For nostalgia, for all of your middle-aged, you know, women who weren't in kindergarten in the 2000s. So for everyone else that wasn't that age, it just felt cringy and uncomfortable. Yeah. They made us play the games that they did back then. It was weird. So yeah, I was very much, like, not in any circle. But I had a couple of friends, and a lot of people that I genuinely enjoyed working with. The staff, while I did get misgendered a lot by employees, or not the employees, by customers, the employees were always good to me. I stand by a big reason that I think I'm more confident and more comfortable with myself was because every employee never misgendered me, except for the 60-year-old man who just didn't get it. I think it also helped that one of the most outspoken people at the job was this 65-year-old Irish man, super tall and very gay. So he was so happy to have another queer person working with him. And he would just, like, almost to a point where it was a little weird, but he would really try to befriend me. And I get it, you know, you don't know many queer people in the area, and so I didn't fault him. But there was a very big age discrepancy. So at times it was a little like, okay, I would like to talk to somebody born in my decade, please. But he was very sweet. Occasionally my mom will still go into the store that I worked at, and he will recognize my mom and ask how I'm doing. That's how sweet of a person they were. But yeah, it's funny. I haven't worked at that store in almost 3 years, and I have not walked in there since. And, you know, maybe to a part of it, I'm avoiding seeing the people there. But also, I just don't have I don't need to go into Kohl's, so I just never want to. But yeah, I think that's... Oh, I also forgot to say, I only came out to one professor during my time at college. And I really did enjoy this professor, and I had them multiple times. And that was like another one of like my first steps of comfortability was, you know, coming out to somebody like that. And I did have one regret, and it was that I waited until the end of the semester to do it. Because I definitely would have had a more enjoyable time in their class if I had just done it sooner. But I was very scared throughout most of college. Hell, there was somebody who I would talk to on the daily that I just straight up never came out to. And you could tell that there was something bothering me in college because I was very antisocial in a lot of my classes where I would just get on my computer, play a game or two, or watch Twitch. I didn't want to answer questions. I didn't want to be perceived. I just wanted to exist. Hi, Finster. It has been a little bit. I hope you're doing well. So yeah, it was one of those things where I definitely, I think overall in college, I came out to maybe a dozen people that I graduated with. You know, I wasn't comfortable with myself to the point where after I graduated in 2018, I was at a restaurant with my mom and my dad, and I told them 2 days before the graduation, after we had already purchased the gown, I don't want to go to my graduation anymore. To be fair, I hated my high school graduation. My high school graduation was in the middle of June. 90-degree weather because we were sitting out on our football field. And I sat there for 3 hours waiting for my name to be called. And you want to hear the wildest part about my high school graduation? Somebody purchased a plane to fly overhead and congratulate their daughter on graduating. And I hated that. I absolutely hated that. I was like, this is too extra. I'm already cranky. And then you do this. You can imagine coming out to any of your professors. You weren't close to any of them. I actually would go back to my high school a lot through college. Because, A, my sister was there, so I still felt comfortable going. But I had a really good relationship with a lot of the teachers. And I had actually come out to quite a couple of the teachers when I had come back. You know, the one teacher that I had who got me into my degree that I ended up taking of sports marketing. I had my guidance counselor who was my swim coach. She was like the first person I told. And you know, being the guidance counselor, of course she just kind of went like, but also being my coach, so we had this relationship, she just kind of was like, I'm not surprised. But anytime, I've run into her a couple times since graduating, and it's always nice. And I don't feel comfortable going back to the high school now, seeing as I am 26 years old and I don't have a sibling there. But like, I do sometimes wish that I had enough of a relationship to be able to talk to some of those people again. Just because, again, that was a very difficult time, and having that comfort there with people who are older went a long way. Because again, that allowed me to just be able to feel like I could come out to anybody at that point. So yeah, that's a little bit more backstory to college. And then again, after I quit Kohl's, I opened up Stream. I was like, this is something I did for a year and a half, and I quit because I couldn't make a consistent schedule while also working at Kohl's. And so I came back while I was on furlough, and I booted up this neat game called Fall Guys. And, you know, I had seen people talking about how they wanted to get into the beta of it, and I watched a Twitch stream that was giving away the beta keys, and I played it. And I was like, huh, this game's hard. But it seems like a lot of people are liking it. I didn't know anything about it. So, when the game came out, I bought it, and I streamed it. And, you know, I wasn't great at it. It took me a couple hours to get a win, but I'd win like a couple on stream, maybe like 3 or 4 stream. But I remember that 3 or 4 then would quickly become, you know, 5 or 6, and then like 7 or 8. And then I started to compete, and I was still relatively new again to streaming. When I came back to stream, I had 800 followers, and most of the people that were watching me back then aren't even on this platform anymore. So, it's not like I had anything or anybody to start back up on. But I was playing a lot of Fall Guys, and then I did a tournament. Then I did Twitch Rivals. Then I did another tournament and Fall Mania. And throughout all of that, I was able to be Chloe, you know? I didn't have to hide anything. It was great. Everybody knew me for me. I just started to befriend people more than I ever had. Fall Guys had this community of a lot of different queer people, and honestly, quite a couple trans individuals aside from myself. But because I was everywhere, I was in so many tournaments, and I was later on commentating, I pretty much started to get called the Fall Guys mom amongst the community, where everybody, you know, assumed I was modding everywhere. I was in everybody's streams, you know, just being supportive. And I'm not gonna lie, up until very recently, did getting, like, genderized terms, like mom, really just make all the difference. You'll never know how much something simple like being called a mom can go such a long way, even if it's like metaphorically speaking. But that definitely was something that was a huge point of comfort for myself. You didn't tell your boss about them, about your then girlfriend, until you were like years into your PhD? That's wild, Gabby. But you stayed casual about it and dropped it in conversation and literally... Yeah, I feel like most jobs should just have that reaction. That's how Twitch has been for you as a viewer. It's wonderful having so many people know you as just Finn, instead of, yeah, exactly. And you know, Zaz had asked this question a while ago of, is it easier to come out on like Twitch? And you know, here are literal testimonials you're seeing right now of individuals who feel like they were able to be their true self on here just a little bit easier than they have it in person. Gonna go have breakfast, have a wonderful day. Thurandas, I appreciate you hanging out as early as you did during your Friday. Go enjoy your breakfast. It's always nice being able to interact with you, and have yourself a lovely day. Honestly, I could go for like a nice breakfast burrito right now. Anybody else in the mood for just like a nice breakfast burrito? Or is it just me? You know, get some egg, a little bit of salsa, some cheese. I'll throw in like ham. Sounds delicious right now. I remember when I stayed in at my friend's house back in June. The last meal she had made me before I left was breakfast burritos. And it was like the first time I had had like a homemade breakfast burrito in years. And I think it's just sold me on eating breakfast burritos whenever. You know, just when eggs aren't $7 for a 12-pack of eggs. But yeah, that is neither here nor there. So, we're back to streaming. I started to feel comfortable a lot more about my overall self. It's definitely nice being called Zaz, partially for social anxiety. You never really enjoyed being called your actual name? Same. I remember growing up, I also hated pictures. And let me know if I have any other person who is trans in the chat that also was like this, where pretty much as soon as I hit puberty, all of a sudden I never wanted to be in pictures. But you know, when I was 3 or 4 years old, you bet your ass I wanted to be the face of every photo. I wanted to be in everything. You know? I really just didn't want to, and nobody understands. Not trans, okay, trans envy, trans adjacent. But yes. You hate photos of yourself? Same. I was so bad at wanting to take photos because I just never had that comfort with it. And again, like, growing up, I was not like that. But once I started to, you know, actually, like, I was also really, really bad with, like, just liking myself to the point where I would put effort in on things. And by that I mean, like, I would wear sweatpants all the time. I would be in, like, really baggy clothes in high school. I just didn't want to be perceived. And so I would just never try to look good so that I wouldn't have to deal with anything like that. And the annoying condescending adults would say smile more. Mine would never say smile more. Mine would just fight me to be in the picture. I would refuse, and they would try to guilt trip me and get me to be in the photo. It's always off being self-esteem, but it was really uncomfortable for you after a certain age. Exactly. I feel the same way. Unlucky memories of you wearing baggy jackets because you were insecure about your chest. Yeah, it's so, like, you can pinpoint the moments where we started to feel more insecure about ourselves. I remember I had, so, a little bit of a story time. It's not gonna be gross. I went to a water park with my cousin and a friend. And while we were there, I was in the lazy river. And my knee hit the bottom of the lazy river. It didn't, like, cut it. I didn't bleed or anything like that. But what it did do was it burnt, like, enough of the hair off that there's just a patch on my leg that will never grow hair now. But also, I like that, you know? I was like, why do I like this smoothness, you know? Something simple like that. The more you hear from others, the more like, oh, I should have known, you just feel less alone. It's crazy. And that's what's so good about how it gets better, is that you really do get this sense of realization that a lot of these insecurities that we had are a lot more common than we had perceived them to be. You definitely wore more close-fitting sweatshirts than you used to. So I swam in high school for 4 years. I talk about this a lot because it's really funny, the trans girl dressing in, you know, wearing the one, doing the one sport that would probably make me the most uncomfortable now, where I don't like to go in the water at all. But TLDR, I got a varsity jacket from that, and I would only wear that varsity jacket because if you don't know what like a varsity jacket in high school looks like, they are extremely baggy, and you can pretty much live in them, and they were super warm. So all winter, every day, I would just take that and live in it. That in super baggy sweatpants. And that was, you know, my style. I think I started to try to dress a little bit more in college. But I was also then just, like, trying to wear, you know, like, skinny jeans. And, you know, things... I like... These days, I like tight-fitting clothes. Because I like clothes that feel more form-fitting to my body. You know? I feel like tight-fitting clothes often, especially if they were already designed for a AFAB individual, allows me to feel more, you know, comfortable because it's already, you know, trying to accentuate certain parts of your body that are flattering to somebody who is AFAB and still identifies as such. Varsity jacket. Thinking about how high school jackets make you so upset. You begged for a men's jacket and insisted. Wait, you had different ones? Our varsity jackets were the same regardless of gender. There was just one jacket, and the only difference is that on the back you could get like a female swimmer or a male swimmer. That's crazy that you had different design jackets. I honestly didn't think that that was a thing. You also wore jeans every day in hot Florida because you didn't like shaving your legs and you were very insecure about it and you would hide them either way. Yeah. There was definitely, I think the common consensus here is that there was just a lot of hiding that we all felt like we had to do because we were insecure about certain parts of our body or parts of ourselves that just we didn't feel like we could show without being shunned or ridiculed. All through high school, you had uniforms. You would only wear a sweatshirt you even had on in midsummer. It was insane, like all the girls would wear shorts in the winter, but no, you were the weird one. I could not imagine how I would have felt if I had gone to a private school. So, early Chloe, when I first was going to elementary school, my grandmother went to a private Christian school all for her upbringing. Up until high school, when she graduated. And so she was very adamant about me having the same education. Long story short, I got kicked out after 2 years. They, in their words, did not have the child services needs for an ADHD child such as myself. It could be because I threw the Bible when I was 5 years old during, you know, Bible class. But it could also just be that I was very not able to get controlled at that age. You know? The ones was shaped to fit tight and didn't have the cool leather sleeves. The leather sleeves were like some of the best parts. That's wild to me. Yeah, I feel like I would have... It's funny because, like, you would have wanted the one that I had, and I would have wanted the one that you had. And again, it just really goes to show the difference. But before I get too distracted from where I was, I had gotten back into streaming. I had been making a bunch of friends, genuine connections with people, and, you know, streaming was going well, and it became like my focus. I got partnered in May of 2020 after coming back to streaming in September of 2019. I went from nothing on stream to being partnered in 6 to 8 months. And that entire time, I wasn't doing anything transitionally for myself. It's crazy how much more confident you feel like in khaki pants and a polo. The most androgynous outfit you can find. I see anytime you post a selfie and it just gives off the most androgynous vibes and I'm like, hell yeah, Gabby. Hell yeah. Make them question who you are. You do have to go unpack. Thank you for sharing the story. Of course, Finster. Go unpack. I'll be here for about another 2 hours. So if it doesn't take you too long, I'll still be here. So yeah, I had gotten partnered, but I wasn't doing anything for myself. And again, I had met my friend who was very like, you keep saying you want to do things and you wish you were further along, but when's the last time you actually did anything? And it was true. 2020 was arguably... Oh, hey, shiny... No. I thought that was shiny. It's not. Sad gulpin. But 2020 was one of the best years of my life. And I know for a lot of people, it wasn't. Because, you know, pandemic. But I finally had put that effort in. And I started to do research. And whilst doing research for a top surgeon, I had called a couple places. Big scary thing for me. I hate calling, especially phone numbers that I don't recognize. But I found this one surgeon's office, and their entire website had a dedicated tab for transgender affirming care. And so I set out an inquiry and was like, hey, I am a trans woman looking to get top surgery. They called me back the next day and explained to me how their stuff goes, and I scheduled a consultation. Told my mom, hey, found a surgeon. It's in this town. Can you get me there on this date? We went. I very much was happy. They told me the price. And we set up the appointment. Now, there were some things that I had to do to prep for it. Like, get an EKG and, you know, get letters of approval. Because that's just what, like, were required. But again, I had put those off, you know? I hadn't been... And it got to a point where I got the letter, like, a month prior. And I got the EKG about 2 weeks before the date that we were given. And the EKG had a, like, small little blip of, you know, call it an anomaly. that it was enough that the surgeon was like, I am no longer comfortable, or not the surgeon, but the doctor. I was like, I am not comfortable. I'm sending you to a heart doctor. And this was like less than a week before the surgery was supposed to be. And I had put that off, and I was so, you know, paranoid. Thankfully, nothing bad happened, and I was still able to get it on the day that I was given. And yeah, the surgery went through. That was in December of 2020. So it's been 14 months since that. But that's not all that happened in 2020. Because I was really neglectful toward getting my name officially changed. I would complain about having to give my dead name to a doctor, but I wasn't doing anything about it. Again, same old story. Well, I had a friend in the Fall Guys community. Notice how that circles back to things. Who would host tournaments. But what she was also going to school for was to be a lawyer. And at the time, she was going to school in New York. And I'm in New Jersey. So, being a state away, she had a pretty good idea on how to help me, even if a lot of the state laws were different. So I reached out to her and was like, hey, I am trying to get my name changed and initiate the paperwork for it. Can you help me? And she ended up, like, we sat in a voice call for 3 hours, navigating the website. Such a terrible website to figure out how to submit the paperwork. But we did that in August, and by a week later, I got an email from the courthouse. Hi, Kaylin. How are you? I hope you're doing well. And the courthouse was like, hey, your court date for your name change, November something. I think it might have been like November 1st. No, it was October 29th. Because I'll get into this here as to why I can remember that so vividly. And so I have the date. I have all my necessary paperwork filled out. I do everything. I don't procrastinate that. And then, while at the time I'm obviously still streaming, I see a Twitch Rivals for Fall Guys is coming. Now, I had been in a couple already, but that didn't mean I didn't want to be in the next one. And so I saw somebody who was a captain, and I was like, hey, female Twitch partner here. I regularly stream Fall Guys. Would love it if you considered me. I didn't list, you know, my accolades like everyone else was. I just said, hey, I am a Twitch partner. I like to do a lot of Fall Guys. It'd be neat if you had me. Lo and behold, I got reached out to that next morning. After I didn't think I was going to get reached out because I thought he already picked up a teammate. And I played on that team. And that team had many a big content creator. And the entire tournament was primarily big content creators. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't my biggest show in a sense that I was on. In the States, you have to go through the court to change your name. Yeah. Not only do I have to go through the courts, I had to spend $250 for the fee and then another $80 to submit it. So overall, $330. And then I bought multiple copies of it, and each multiple copy was another $20. So overall, I think I spent like $400 on my name change. Oh, game, don't freeze, thank you. And in that tournament, even back then, I wasn't pitching my voice like I do. This isn't my natural voice, but it's the voice that I at least get a little bit of comfort in. And I had a team that was extremely supportive, were in awe of my skills at Fall Guys, and, at one point, the captain went, so what are you going to use the money on? And I was like, well, actually, I have this surgery for top surgery coming in a couple months, and if we get first place, that'll cover most of the funds for it. And my teammate goes, how much of it's missing if we win? And I go, 500. And no hesitation, my captain goes, okay, if we win, I'll pay off the rest. And I was in shock. No, Andy, they do not make it easy. And then another one of the teammates, as it was a team of 4, also goes, yeah, I'll match that if we win. So not only am I playing to, put on a good show like I do with every tournament, if we win, all of this happens. And I was dominating it because I was the only person who was good at the game, consistently playing in it. We were feeling good, we were laughing, but throughout it, I was dealing with a ton of harassment and a ton of transphobia. It was the only time in my 5+ years of streaming that my chat was in slow mode. I had consistently 1,000 people watching. Maybe some of them were hate watching. Some of them were just in awe of the skill. And I remember I got an email mid-tournament that my account was getting reported. And I tell my team this, and they're like, what the hell is wrong with people? They're getting defensive for me, because they know it's all transphobic stuff. And they are, honestly they were probably some of the best people that I could have had for something like that, because I never once during that time cried, even though I could have. I didn't make it look like it was bothering me. And it's true. I got a message from Twitch Rival admins after the tournament the next day, because I asked them a question. And they were like, hey, we were the organizers of the event. We just want to tell you that we are sorry for what happened to you. And we think the way that you handled it was with nothing but grace, and if we ever see you in another tournament again, we will be, very grateful to have you. And that was a really, really nice moment. But that doesn't even go into detail about how the tournament went. Because I ended up not getting first place. We got second place. Second place was still good. It was $1,500 a person. But, I was a little bummed. Because I was like, damn. Alright, I have a little extra money I'm gonna have to put in. That's fine. at least I had, you know, something of it. And then they go, my teammates, okay, what's your PayPal? I'm gonna pay you anyway. And just like that, by one tournament, in front of thousands of people, my surgery was fully funded. Through, I am the only person, I think, in the history of esports who can say, I want a tournament to pay for my surgery. And more specifically, my top surgery. And you know, that's my badge of honor. But yeah, I did that, and then 2 days later, I got my name change finalized. The paperwork got sent out a month later, and by November, I was legally Chloe. Lil Bean Game provided the booba. Lil Bean Game provided the booba. Gotta get that money somehow. Exactly. You know? But, you know, that ending of 2020, I know 90% of the people here have heard that story before. They know how it went. Some of the people here met me because of that event. And I'm sure they're gonna have to hear it another 24 times as I tell that story every now and again. But, yeah, I think it just really proved that in a 3-month span, I made the money for my surgery, got my name changed, and then got the surgery. Also getting Twitch partnered in 2020. Yup. And there's one of them. I am surprised that you are just not tired of listening to me, Boo. With the amount of times that I repeat myself in stories, I give you credit. You sit there and you listen to it every time. True ideal viewer. The ideal viewers are the ones that hear you 1,000 times and will still listen to your story. They're good stories, they are. And you know, you'd think after 2020, I would have tried to, you know, follow the momentum. Except I didn't. I really tunneled in on tournaments and content creation. And I definitely pushed myself to a backseat. Which I very much... You mean you were there for Twitch Rivals? You were! You really were there. Still my most viewed YouTube video was that hour-long video of it. But, yeah, in 2021, I started to really just focus on trying to have content. And because of that focus, I didn't really put effort in on myself. And I would get frustrated at myself. And it was all the same habits that I had in 2019. I didn't accomplish any changes that I wanted to do. I had a consultation for laser hair removal, and then my mom was like, we know somewhere cheaper, and then I never called them. I wanted to at least get my consultation in place for bottom surgery. Didn't do that. But, you know, I made a goal. I made a goal for myself for 2023. I would put the most effort in on myself to keep growing that I can. both growing as a creator and growing in my transition and myself as a woman. And so far, we've done just that. I found a new doctor after complaining for 4 years that my hormones weren't doing anything. An entire center dedicated to helping trans individuals get gender-affirming care. And tomorrow, I start injection training, which hopefully will help with my hormones and getting my hormone levels better. This same office also had a connection with the only bottom surgery surgeon in the state of New Jersey, who I now have a referral to, and my consultation is getting set up. I know that I stress a lot about growing my stream and being able to continue to make it as a creator financially. But I think my best years are the years that I have really been able to grow myself and continue to figure myself out and continue pushing myself as a person as much as a creator, if not, honestly, more. So yeah. I think after an hour and a half, that is a pretty good summary of the last 5 years for me. And thank you everybody who is saying that they're proud of me and excited. I really appreciate it. I know we were primarily just listening and taking it all in, but I know I had plenty of you who maybe had met me at different parts of my life. Have met me at different times of where I was, you know. Some of you might have heard me before I was pitching my voice. Some of you maybe knew me before I got my name changed. Some of you, I don't, you know, I have people who knew me before I was even a camera streamer. Like, Twitch, in a way, despite it not having a permanent stay on the content that you are watching, unless you go out of your way to download it or highlight it and so on, will end up getting to a point where it really is like a photo book for me. It is a moments through time. It is this way of really just seeing how far my journey has been and how far I've been able to grow and the things I've been able to talk about, the things that I've been able to say, the things that I've been able to do. I am a lot more outspoken. I am a lot more confident in myself. And I constantly will stand up for things. More than I ever have. And you can even just see that through a Twitch chat. Where I am not somebody to tolerate any sort of negativity toward myself. And I will, you know, make it known publicly and shame said person for being negative toward me. Whether or not you agree with that, I need to call people out for their toxicity. Sometimes people need to know when they're not a good person. And that's the strength that I've been able to develop through time. Instead of just accepting it or staying quiet about it. I now am like, no. I'm gonna stand up to it. And I think that really is true growth. Now, if only this shiny Pokemon could grow. We have 3.5 minutes left on this thing. We started off real hot on the shiny hunting. We had 2 in the first 32 minutes. And now we haven't had one since. Come on. Give me something, game. Thanks for listening to that story. I couldn't tell you the last time I, like, sat down from start to finish and just thought about all that. And again, if people have questions, I really do want to make sure that I'm answering any of them. I know people were asking them throughout the story time, and I was trying to remember to and get back to them. But I think I can't think off the top of my head of much more significance, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, I look at things trying to find, like, a significant event or something that is, you know, an important, like, milestone, because I think for a lot of NB or trans people, oftentimes we struggle with being able to look at our small steps that we've been able to take and only focus on what our end goal is. And if it's a 10-step process and you're only on step 4, sometimes we overlook how we got from 1 to 4 because you're too busy trying to look on how you can get from 4 to 10. And being able to reground your brain and reground your ability to see the progress you've made is a perspective that's, I think, very important to be able to develop for yourself. I got a minute left on this sandwich here. Come on. Give it to me. I just want my... you know, I was over here because I just wanted a little blue Gulpin. You know? Gulpin looked cute. It's a nice, vibrant blue color. A little Gulpy boy. I'll even take the Krogunk, even if I've caught, like, 5 Krogunks. Not in this game. But in Legends Arceus, let me tell you, Shiny Krogunk was a very popular shiny for me. Yeah, well, Samuel, thank you for following It Gets Better. Hope you enjoy yourself here. I think this sandwich might end up being a dud here. 8 seconds left. Got like a little bit more to spawn in. Come on. Spawn them in. Show me it. I think, yeah, that's it. Alright. No shiny on the sandwich. Alright, chat. Before we start the next sandwich, I am going to use the bathroom. So I will see you all in just a moment. Alright, we're back. Yeah, wrong chat. You can type out your bathroom, but you had the wrong chat for it. Go on, type your bathroom. Write out your command manually. Alright. You know what? It's daytime. We're gonna change the sandwich we're going for. I am hunting for that Ralts. Also, I'm gonna quickly disable and re-able the capture here, because it's out of sync. I just noticed. There we go. There you go, boo. Now you got it. See, it's all good now. Everything is right. Alright, let's go for that Ralts. I need to bring what for Ralts? Psychic is onion. We're gonna get the onion, chat. Gotta cook it with the onion. Boo, did you figure out what you're gonna have for dinner yet? Chat, do we got any dinner plans? I'm not gonna lie. I'm really just in the mood to order like a pizza. I might try to convince my mom to just like order some pizza. Wouldn't Ralts be faster in the snowy mountains? Spawns with the Gardevoir? I want to guarantee only Ralts because it's harder to get the Ralts, right? Isn't it like when you go up in the mountains, you're getting Gardevoir and Curlia, and I need to make sure I get a Ralts at the very least. This area spawns only the Ralts. If it spawns a good amount of if it spawns a good amount of Ralts, I'll go up to the mountains. You've left over Chinese, but not your favorite. I still have some fried dumplings left over. So if you think it's a better idea, like, do let me know and I'll head up there. I just know that this spot is where I hunted the very first time. Because see, look, there's Ralts. And it's only Ralts. It's like an isolated patch of them. You just look. They'll spawn in. Alright, now we do our loops. I guess that's true. You're not sure how often they spawn, but it's usually Gardevoir and 4 other Ralts. If that's the case, if I don't get it here, I'm down to try it in the mountains. Heckin' nap got you missing. Hey, it's all good, Cookie. Honestly, the nap was there. The nap clearly was calling for you. You missed story time. I spent the first hour and a half here just talking about my life over the past 5 years. Was good story time. And yeah, now we're just kind of hanging out. It's good to have you. You haven't tried it for yourself, so yours might be better. I mean, you're getting like 10 at a time, and all I have to do is go back into town to despawn them. So I don't know what's better. It's nice that I can just go in and out of town for this, you know? We were just talking about food, of course, as you joined Cookie. Do you know what you're going to be doing for dinner? Yeah, head into town, and there's our loop. You almost took a map for yourself before you were altered with, before your plans got altered with Wendy's. I mean, oh, there's our shiny! Let's go! Shiny rolls in like the first 2 minutes. Now we'll go to the snowy mountains. You want me to go to the snowy mountains? I'll go there now. Because now I don't care if I catch a Curlia, or a Ralts, or a Gardevoir. Getting the baby evolution's always the most important for the living decks. Because the baby, you need to have at least one. And if you're catching the evolutions, then you're going to have to breed again, potentially. I mean, you don't know how often they spawn, but it's worth a try. I mean, I need Gardevoir anyway. So yeah, might as well. There's probably going to be... Alright, yeah, there's some Gardevoir. I was going to say, we're probably going to get some Bronzong as well. But how many Bronzong to Gardevoir ratio? Usually just get a second of the babies instead of hunting individually. That's not a bad idea at all. It's just now I have more options for it, you know? I bet you if I was in a fairy type one, I would spawn more Gardevoir. Like, I don't know what fairies spawn in the mountains here. But if I had done fairy down below, I would not have had only Ralts. I would have had Igglybuff and Fido. Klefki? Do Klefki spawn up here? I thought they were only by Alfornata. Damn. Those Gardevoir don't even want to spawn now. That's okay, though. Cool. I can't believe how excited I am. Fido would have been a worthwhile shiny, though. True. Because I do need a second. I am not in the aggro range of that. You've had a couple of Klefki outbreaks up here? Huh. Well, I'll take your word for it. I can't get that item. So, yeah, I can't believe that I'm as excited as I am for my new hormone doctor. But at the same time, I literally sat there and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be off tomorrow. I can't wait to do nothing. As if I had forgotten that I'm going tomorrow. Like, I just had a straight up lapse in memory. I'm thinking it might be hard to get Gardevoir to spawn here. I'm thinking we're only getting Bronzong with the psychic one. Alright, I'm calling an audible here. We're going to Alfrenata. Maybe get like 3 more Ralts in the other area. I have a Curlia. So I only need Gardevoir. However, I do also need the Gothita line. The only difference with them is their eyes. But I do need them. No Gallade. Oh, I guess I do need Gallade too. My brain wasn't even thinking about Gallade. The sun's about to set anyway in the game. I probably have like another 5 minutes over there. Unfortunately, they're only daytime spawns. I'll just commit to this at this point. That's the only problem about going for Ralts. Is that they're only like a daytime. But you are very right, and I am very forgetful. Can I say Boo is just an intelligent woman? Want me to just keep gassing you up? Want me to just turn this into a gas up the chatters? Quick, I'll gas you all up. Look, you listen to my story and my life for an hour and a half. You only realized until you started to hunt for them at night. Yeah, I feel like Ralts has always been this, like, daytime Pokemon in games with day-night cycles. But I don't really get why they had to make it like that. Like, Ralts doesn't feel like it's a day-night. But even in Legends Arceus, they were a day-night Pokemon. Yes, you are intelligente. The most intelligent individual. Alright, let's just keep looking here. Oh, the like lens flare in this game. I completely forgot about how you just get blinded at the wrong angle. I'm not trying to have my vision get any worse. Which, that's actually another thing that I do want to do. On the topic of things that I still have to do for myself, one of those goals is to get LASIK. I've had glasses since I was 4 years old. Which, at this point, is over 20 years of my life. And I don't like glasses, I'm not gonna lie. So for me, I think, especially because, like, I feel like any, like, really feminine pair of glasses hasn't looked great on me. I've wanted to do, you know, the cute big circle glasses. But anytime I try to put one on, I just don't think they look good on me. But that was like a goal of mine, was to have those like big rounded ones if I was gonna stick with glasses. And I can't do contacts because my prescription is, my astigmatism is so bad that there's no proper contact that will correct my vision to 20/20. Which I never knew was a thing. Straight up, I had no idea that there were some contacts that are just unable to help you. You were supposed to wear glasses daily, but none look great on you. Yeah, it's so crazy how glasses shape changes the face so much. And there's so many that I want to have been able to, you know, wear or, you know, try. Hell, I don't even have I don't have more than one pair. Because they're so expensive for me, as is. I feel like the cheapest options out there for me are like $120. Which is crazy to make glasses that expensive for people who are, you know, I don't know, trying to see clearly. Maybe, like, I don't know, some of them want to drive. And it's kind of important to be able to properly see when driving. Sorry, that's just me getting into, healthcare. Which that in itself has been a journey of transitioning with healthcare. Because my surgeon, when I got my top surgery, was like, oh yeah, I'm sure the insurance will cover half of it. Insurance offered to cover 1,000 of $8,000. The surgeon's office went, that's not enough. We dropped it down to 3,000. And so, the surgeon's office was the reason why it was so cheap, not my insurance. You have one pair that you only wear if you're going to be reading something from far away. I have a really bad astigmatism, but I also think that I think I'm nearsighted. Because nearsighted means you see better up close. My brain always struggles if that means you're better at afar. Like, my brain always struggles if it means the opposite of what you're saying. But I'm pretty sure I'm nearsighted. Not by much, but it's mainly a product of the astigmatism. Which I, for the longest time, did not know that an astigmatism was called an astigmatism. I thought people were just saying that I had a stigmatism. Like, A, and then space, and then the word was stigmatism. You don't know how long it took me to learn that the word was just astigmatism. Far and nearsighted? Yeah, I know there's far and nearsighted. I just don't know if when you say you're farsighted, that means you see worse at afar or better at afar. That's what I was trying to figure out. Because I can never remember that. Well, we found one shiny early. We still have 15 minutes left of this one. You know, I normally try to eat before stream, like 20 minutes prior, just so I'm not hungry during the stream. But I didn't do it today because I felt like I had a big lunch. And your girl is hungry. No way I found a shiny Espathra. Well, that's not what we were looking for, but it's another dupe. You think you're nearsighted too? You need things to be in your face to read clearly? So snack time? I only got another hour. I'm fine. We are fine here. Well, we have a, another shiny to give away. Nearsighted means you can see things up close but struggle to see far off. Okay. So it means you're better in the... Yeah. So I am nearsighted then. Further away things just get really fuzzy with the astigmatism. And I've always preferred things like up close in my face. Okay, we got our answer. Thank you. Yeah, it's blurry from far away. Exactly. A lot of stuff is blurry from far away from me. I remember as a kid, I loved being able to lie to myself about how good my vision was. Did anybody else who went to eye doctors, and maybe it's a neurodivergent thing, but did any of us just memorize the eye chart? So it was really hard for me to pretend like I can't see anything. Because whenever I would go, I knew it was like ENCFGZ was like the first row that she was gonna make me say. So like, what am I supposed to do? Lie that I can't read it when I know what it says? Like, it's wild to me that we have a system out there for like checking your vision, that we don't change the letters every time so that you can actually get a proper understanding. Because if you go to get your eyes checked every 6 months to a year, well, there's a high chance you're probably just going to start to like develop muscle memory for it. It's silly. I feel like it's such a outdated system because of the use of technology that we have these days. You could easily, you know, digitize it and then randomize it. I can go onto Google and be like, give me a random assortment of 6 letters. And then put it on a projector. And then bam. Just like that. Nothing is the same going forward. And I feel like most kids might have memorized that. Like, I don't know if it's a neurodivergent thing or it's just kids trying to memorize patterns. Because I loved pattern recognition growing up. Like, for me to be able to see a connection in everything that I was doing as like a pattern or a routine was something that I very much liked. So, you know, it was stuff like, even like doctor's appointments, I knew the repetition, but when it came to like getting the, you know, like your physicals, because for every year when I swam in high school, you would have to get a physical, and you'd have to redo it every year. And I remember one of the things was, Gizmo, thank you for the follow. Welcome to It Gets Better. Hope you're doing well. I don't think I understand what you mean by, is it wrong to be strong, Tommy? But hi. Hi, Gizmo. How are you? I hope you're doing well. What are my pronouns? She, her. What are yours? Okay, we're looking for the Scott Theta here. I mean, you can remember the distance, the letters, but the point is, Tired Gamer, thank you for following. It gets better. Yours or she, him? Oh, as in... Okay. There you go. Very well. That's what you want to be. I'm never going to judge somebody. How you doing, Tired Gamer? Hope you're doing well. We got a pronoun check. Can we get a pronoun check? My pronouns are she, her. We got Cookie, she, her. Zaz, she, they. She, her for Boo. He, they for Tired Gamer. Awesome, thank you. Well, you see, everybody has pronouns. Normally when somebody refers to you, they'll say, you know, he, she. You silly little gamer. You've always had pronouns be used. One second. Alright. How much time do I have left on the sandwich here? 8 minutes? Okay, we still got time to find another shiny. Let's see how it goes. Such is the world these days. People can be childish. But, hey. At least if you know, if you're gonna be in here and try to be silly, and, you know, try to annoy me, at least be creative with it. Because you didn't change anything about my life, and you're gonna be forgotten just like your parents probably forgot about you. But that's all we gotta give for that. Sorry to anybody in the chat who got uncomfortable by them. Alright, I don't know what I'm gonna have to go for. I mean, I wonder if I've actually, like, passed the Gothita here. Because, again, the only difference is those eyes aren't supposed to be gray. So I'm just looking here. You weren't paying attention to them? I think most people weren't. You know, when people try to be edgy and try to be cool and, you know, they do things like that, they're probably 16 years old and they probably have just watched their favorite creator, you know, be a little bit of a troll, and so they think that it's okay to do the same. Because they don't get enough joy in their everyday life. Like I said on my own stream earlier, when people are hate watching, that means I'm doing something right. And, you know, thank you for reassuring me that I am existing on this and doing well. Really thoughtful of you. Alright. I still wouldn't mind another meta type either. But, again, there's so much Gothorita here. I think we're almost to the point where it's going to be daytime in the game again, too. So, I have to think about, like, if there's a daytime encounter that I want to go for. Again, Ralts was the big one. I don't want to do another Psychic Sandwich. But hi. I mean, again, I don't know. New cookie art just dropped. Oh, heck yeah. Love that for you. We love the cookie art. Did you post it in the Discord, or is it something that you just finished up? I love that throughout the, at this point, we'll say like 8 months that y'all have known each other, you still call yourself twins, and I just think it's adorable because it really just shows the, like, connection that people have been able to, like, develop together with, you know, within my community. Oh, that is some gorgeous art there. I love the colors that you used, Cookie. That is one of my favorite things I've seen you make. Legitimately. Alright. We got, like, 3 minutes now? Yeah, 3 minutes. I was right. Even without Super Pusheen, you're still art twins, so you shall remain twinning. I honestly forgot it was from the Pusheens that you, like, developed that twinning behavior from. I just kind of, you know, associated you two together for so long that, like, I didn't remember why it started. Also, thank yous, of course. You know, I'm really remembering why I never went for Kathita. This one is gonna be one of my least favorite ones to hunt for whenever I get it. Assuming I do continue the Shiny Living Dex. Because I'm not gonna lie. Again, I've wanted to dip into the variety. I did say that I'm probably gonna do a challenge with Pokemon, but chat will be able to hack me up with it. But that'll be something I'll save for my channel and how it gets better. But I just have a lot of games that I'm just looking forward to now. You know? Maybe I'll... I feel like... Not for, like, a full day stream, but maybe, like, one day this week, I'll do, like, a little bit of, you know, maybe, like, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Just because that's a classic that just came to the Switch. Well, that literally answers that question, Gabby. I think I want to do Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I hope that there is going to be more that I want to do. Like, I don't know if I'll want to play an original Fire Emblem, but I do know that the Fire Emblem games are coming as well. I hope that we get a higher frequency of games being ported to those virtual consoles. Because, like, I couldn't tell you the last time the Nintendo one or the SNES one had games come to it. So my worry is that it's like a two and done kind of thing, you know? And I would like to see more. The FE game that's recording was your first ever FE game as a kid. Was it also the first one that came over to, like, the Western audiences in general? Because I feel like it was just called Fire Emblem, so I would imagine it was like one of the first ones that we, as, you know, the West were susceptible to. Or susceptible to, like, the culture of that game. I saw an interaction with Ike and Soren, one of the new DLC characters. And let me tell you, I learned a lot between those two there. And I have begun to believe that Ike and Soren are gay for each other. And I will take no further questions based off of that one interaction. That is my headcanon that I will choose to believe. You played the one with Lynn? I would just want to play as Lynn. You feel like most FE characters are gay. That was the TikTok that I was watching. It was pretty much like, you cannot tell me that any Fire Emblem character is heterosexual with dialogue like this. At least by. Where do we want to go now for a Pokemon to hunt for? You know, up here there's gonna be nothing. Up here there's Kricketot and Scyther number 2. Maybe I'll do a... you know what? I haven't done in a while. You mean, shippers are gonna ship? Yeah, shippers will ship. That much is for sure. Alright, let me check to see if I have already gotten this one. I did not get this one. Okay. I'm hopeful that I can have a good amount of spawns here. But before I do, let me put everything in the box. You can't wait to get into like Game of Engage, which is a bit of dialogue that has you rolling laughter. I can't wait to play more of Engage. We're definitely going to be continuing Engage more. And then you go in the dupes box. You cannot convince me. Well, I will never know, as I will not use Alfred. My current team was like, the prince from the desert area, the healer from the desert area, Frame, Celine, Ivy. I think that's Yunaka. Not Kagetsu, but the other thief. And that's like most of it there. I'm still using them? Yeah. Because I prioritize having multiple healers. Unless, is Frame the... Which one? Whatever one's the healer. I might have mixed them up, but... Whichever one is the healer is the one that I'm still using. She was the first one you dropped? No. I didn't even mess with most of the people from the first area. Alfred I used out of necessity. Yeah, the fangirl healer. Uh-huh. I never wanted to use Boucheron. I know Zaz really liked Lewis. I used... Oh, obviously I have Chloe on my team. I've also upgraded Chloe because Chloe is the best. I was using Edie for a while, but then I just got better archers. I used Diamant. Yeah, I think that's the team. It's main character, Ivy, 2 healers, the Prince Archer, Another cavalry person. You have... And then whoever I just named there as like the last three. Alright, cool. This is what I wanted. I wanted to hunt for phalanx here. Oh, and Passimian and Heracross also spawn. That is less desirable. Because I think I already have Passimian. Lewis is just so happy. Here's the thing about Lewis for me. There is a character in the anime Blue Lock. And I love Blue Lock. But there is a character who looks exactly like Lewis in Blue Lock who betrayed the main character's team. And I could not unsee that. I could not unsee that, like, no opened eyes, very little face, and it just made me not want to use them. Used a lot of flex healers, like Pandero you had as a magic focus. I also keep Ivy with the Lin one. I know people are like, oh, it's useless on, or it's not optimal on her, but like, I have proven to have consistent use with it there. And I don't know who else I want to keep it on. I don't think I recognized Lewis's voice actor into anything consistent. Ivy's like one of my strongest damage dealers, though. I haven't progressed since the last time we've played on stream, but I've opened the game to do like a scrimmage or two to get extra experience and optimize. Optimal schmoptimal, just having fun. Exactly. The only real decision that I made that some people might not have done was giving Seaguard to Vander. Because I think Alfred had it for Sleeping Bear. There are some RNG in stat games, so sometimes the stats go to favor one build over another. I'm not that worried about it, you know? Stats schmats. If I beat the game, I beat the game. You know? Whenever I play through single-player games lately, and I do them off-stream, I literally just play them on the easiest difficulty so I can just enjoy the story. I don't want a challenge in my first run-through, and if I really like the game enough, then I'll give myself a challenge. But I don't really need that otherwise, you know? By the end, you gave Seaguard to Fogato. I feel like giving Seaguard to Fogato makes sense, but like Fogato was an archer, so I didn't really feel like it also made sense there, you know? Like, they might both be cavalry, but I feel like Seaguard wanted to run in, and he just wanted to be like a recon cavalry. And that was my perception of him. That's also probably how I will play him. But Fogato was one of my strongest. I think it's Ivy and Fogato are probably like my most consistently strong too. Alright, so if you don't know what Shiny Phalanx looks like, it's kind of just got the reverse colors there. You're gonna do another playthrough? Damn. You know it's a good game when you're already planning playthrough number 2. Did you already buy your expansion pass? I need to sit down and analyze what games I want and when they come out so I can legitimately budget myself. Because that Nintendo Direct opened the door to a lot of games. You know, it's funny. I don't know if Andy's still here, but I was in my friend's stream earlier today, and we were talking about that Fashion Dreamer game. And people were so quick to, like, you know, talk about how it's such a garbage game on Twitter. And I just sat there and I was, and you know, both my friend and I were like, you're just saying that because it doesn't appeal to you. There's nothing wrong with the game. You know, I've said this quite a couple times about Nintendo games. They aren't, you know, releasing just a Mario game now, or just a new Zelda game. Nintendo wants to appeal to everyone. And so they're going to find other things to, you know, appeal to a different demographic. That doesn't make it bad off the bat. That just makes it not for you. And, like, that's why I can get excited about the most recent Nintendo Direct. Because I genuinely think it did a great job of appealing to a wide demographic of people. And then also giving people something that most people wanted, which was Tears of the Kingdom information. You know? I feel like too many people are looking for the perfect option, or you know, the only thing that they want, that if they don't get it, it's bad. Is GBA only expansion pass? It is only expansion pass. The Game Boy is not, though. That one is on cheap one. It seems confusing. So, the easiest way to look at it is, here are the things that you get with the expansion pass. You will get, the main things are Mario Kart and all of its expansions. You get the Nintendo 64, and now you get the Game Boy Advance. Those are what you get with the more expensive Nintendo Online version. I mean, there was a farming sim, technically. Fantasy Life was pretty farming sim. Yeah, we had 4 unique detective games. You had the Danganronpa one, you had Deca Police, you had Professor Layton, and then I think like one more. Which, 2 of those games looked like something I would play. Disney Dream World is sort of farming, true. But yeah, that Fantasy Life game was, I would say, because it had, like, literally the Animal Crossing UI slapped onto it. You want the Layton game? That steampunk aesthetic is your happy place. I know my grandmother likes the Professor Layton games. She owned one on her DS. It really did seem like that, Gabby. So that's, I've never played a Professor Layton game, but I know it appeals to my grandmother. You do like Ace Attorney? I never played through the games, but I did watch the bad anime for the first season of it. And I was enjoying it for the first season of it. What console's that one on, Zaz? Okay. Switch and Steam? Oh, if it's on Steam. Maybe I look at it when the next time it goes on sale. I don't know if I would stream it, but I like having games for me. You know? I think as a content creator, too many people are fixated on every game they play needs to be recorded or used for content in some way. Sometimes you need a game that's just a you game. And I don't think it's a matter of it's not a great stream game. I just don't think that it's gonna have it's got a niche. I think it's a fine game to play on stream. I just think the community is niche. And I don't know how many people are like actively searching for new people playing the game. People may backseat. Yeah, that's every game though. You know? I think every game we run into people who might backseat. Like, God, I've been watching that same friend who I was talking to the direct about has also been playing Elden Ring. And the amount of people that I see backseating them, when I know for a fact that they know what they're doing, they are just choosing to do things their way, is wild. Like, he's not using summons to make his life easier during boss battles. But people are like, have you considered respecking and using the exact build that I did to beat this exact boss? And I'm just like, okay, y'all gotta cool it. The beauty of games so often is that everybody's allowed to play it a different way. As soon as a game becomes too optimized, that's when people start to lose interest. I mean, some of my favorite times to speedrun a game are when the speedrun is not optimized yet. And you're just enjoying learning the route and trying to figure out what's best. Hi, Wicked. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Seems like everybody was taking naps. Cookie took a nap. Boo wanted a nap. Wicked's waking up from her nap. It's nap day. If you ever backseated only for game controls, like when first playing FP for the first time, you didn't know how to view the different battle options? I don't know either. The only thing that I want to do is yell at him to not watch every engage cutscene and just hit the plus button on them. Speedrun Pokemon? Again, like, Pokemon's one of those games where it's a lot of, like, RNG manipulation for, like, the popular ones. This one could be runnable. The run with this game requires you to use Flamigo, which I think is very silly. And the reason you do Flamigo is because you can catch one strong early on, and then you just use that the rest of the way through. But it's still like a 4-hour run. And I don't like long runs like that, because, like, here's the thing about a long run. I stream 4 to 6 hours, and if a run's 4 hours, I can't even get a second run in. And what happens if I don't want to, you know, what if I want to reset? Do I have time for another one if I reset 3 hours in? Like, I think for the time that I normally stream, there are just certain games that don't meet my criteria. You love that? Yeah. It's funny because, like, Flamigo's a decent Pokemon. But the fact that it's like the speedrun mon. I was actually watching a video recently of... There's a category in most Pokemon speedruns called, like, any percent, but it's a category extension for you using unconventional Pokemon. And I found out that in Gen 5 Pokemon, the reason that Lillipup, that little puppy Pokemon, is the Pokemon that you use to speedrun that game was because somebody did a Lillipup only speedrun. And people looked at that and was like, oh wait, I think there's something here. Yeah, so there's a lot of Pokemon games where you have a silly Pokemon that you use. And I love that. Actually, one of the most precious ones. It is a little precious. Shy little gamer. Still got half the time on this phalanx here. You know, It Gets Better has had a lot of people on this week, and it's been super nice. I think I've seen 3 different It Gets Better ambassadors streaming already this week, and then there's me as well. I know it's not going to be the case every time, but it is cute when I get to see everything that, you know, has been growing for it, and they've been live more. Come on, little phalanx. Come on, you can do it. That's what we're hunting for right now. Phalanx. Alright. This is probably going to be the last sandwich that I have to run. I don't know about you, but I honestly feel, not in like a bad way, but I feel like time is going by very slow today. Like, I'm surprised that my 3 hours hasn't already come. Because I feel like I've just talked so much, and I feel like I was accomplishing so... Like, I have a problem of talking fast when I do story time. And I want to slow myself down when I do it. And I really thought that I had, like, been able to stretch out, you know, my transition story to, like, 2 hours minimum. And then I got an hour and a half, and I was like, oh. Story time was good, though? It was. Sometimes those are the kind of stories that people need to hear. You know? Again, I think we were able to help one person. And helping one person today means that being on here accomplished something. You know? I think my posture is pretty good right now. I'll sit up though, but I think it's pretty good. My back isn't hurting. For chat, Sure, Gabby, you're just trying to call me out. I know you. I know. Next, you're gonna tell me the hydrate was for chat. How did you know you were slouching? You were just getting comfy. I know I've been getting real comfy in my chair lately because my friends are not hearing me as much because I'm so far leaned back in my chair that my mic is cutting in and out at my, like, normal talking volume. Chloe knows all. Streamer knows all. because you caught yourself with the bad posture. See, when I catch myself with bad posture, I just think back to Ari and just being like, no, no, no. Come on now. You got that top surgery. Don't slouch now. And that just lives in my head rent-free. I have my own personal, like, self-alarm when I catch myself. You have bad posture in your chair constantly, so you catch yourself slipping, and it's always true. I had always had bad posture. Mainly because, for the longest time, I never used back support. I would sit on the floor behind me, and I'd play with my laptop laying on the floor. I would play League of Legends for like 6 hours. And when my back started to hurt, I would just lay on my stomach. Because I was flat-chested then, so it didn't hurt to do that. And no wonder that I have my back is like probably that of somebody 10 years older than me. On the floor? Yep. On the floor. I did that all through high school. No back support. On the floor. But I mean, like, even like growing up, the floor was like where, you know, to me, I think the floor was just this endless, like, I guess, like, area or space. A desk, you're limited. A chair, you're limited. The floor, well, you had so much more space than any other place. So that's how I would do it. You slouch down a lot. You've been having shoulder pain for not using good mouse posture. I think when I'm using a controller, it's easier to sit up, but when I'm, like, PC gaming, it gets a little bit harder for me to maintain. I think we're striking out right now on this phalanx here. We got 11 minutes left of it, but we are getting unlucky. I was really looking for that shiny phalanx. Maybe there's a better spot for phalanx. I don't know. We've already had one dupe today. I also keep picking places that have low frame rates. Although I guess the frame rate right now isn't that bad. But, hey, you know, as far as we know, there is still supposed to be an update for this game in late February. Well, at this point, we're almost to middle February. Maybe in like 2 weeks. It was a cute dupe at least. Yeah, and it's technically never one that I caught. I caught 2 Flittle and evolved one of them. So it was unique for me seeing it in the wild. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, I would imagine that with Pokemon Day being in a couple weeks, we will probably see more news on maybe DLC. I'm gonna take a guess right now and say Pokemon news if we get a Pokemon Direct in 2 weeks, which I think we will. Scarlet and Violet DLC. Maybe we'll finally get Pokemon Sleep. Maybe they will announce that Pokemon Red and Blue are coming to the Nintendo Switch, Game Boy Color, you know, Virtual Console. You'll probably get some more Pokemon Unite characters. Some Pokemon Cafe Mix news. But I don't expect, like, a new game. If it is, it would be, like, an old spin-off game. You bet they bring new Pokemon to Unite? Yeah, they always announce, like, a couple of new Pokemon in a for Unite in a Pokemon Direct. Like, again, I could see another new Mystery Dungeon game, even if it's a remake. But, you know, like, theirs are always 20 minutes. Around 20 minutes. So, there's a lot less to go for. New Legends teaser? Yeah, please. New Legends teaser, Copium. You did grab Zoroark in Unite, but you haven't really played since launch. I played it a fair bit when I was recovering from top surgery, but I think this is the last time I played it. No. Not too much Copium. Never too much Copium. There is enough Copium there. The Copium worked for the Metroid Prime? Yeah, exactly. Just like, show me Celebi flying over a non-burnt down tin tower and then just Pokemon Legends Celebi. And that's all you gotta do. And bam. I'm immediately sold. I know a lot of people want, you know, Kalos or the Origin Dragon from Gen 5. People just want to hate on Johto. I just want my Johto. Pokemon really needs to not publish a new game every year. We want quality over quality. So here's the thing about the Pokemon or Game Freak specifically. From what I've heard is that they want to stop publishing Pokemon. So I think we might likely see some outsourcing if a non-mainstream Pokemon game or mainline Pokemon game comes out. Like, if a Legends game comes out, I reckon it wouldn't be by Game Freak, but another company. Yeah, I saw an article about it about a week or two ago when I was opening up my phone, and I was like, you know how when you're on Google Chrome on your phone, it'll have like articles that they think you might be interested in, and like the first one that popped up was Game Freak possibly wants to be done with Pokemon. Which, like, I mean, they've tried to do other games. They've just all flopped. They had a whole, like, project for people to come up with ideas in the company and greenlight it and turn it into a game. And they published, like, 4 of them, and only one of them, like, had any sort of success. It would be nice. You're not wrong there, Zaz. It would definitely be nice if that was the case. You know, I think my biggest thing is that if new Pokemon games come out in the future, just supply us with good post-game. You know? The argument of we can't compete with mobile phones is such a lazy narrative for why you won't make a post-game. People will love your game if you add the post-game even more than we already do. Even if it's just a battle tower. Think people will buy Pokemon with or without major gameplay glitches? Yeah. That's the reality, too. People will yell at us to be like, oh, if you complain this much, why are you still, you know, buying the game? And they're like, I mean, true. But when I complain about these things, I don't also feel like they stop me. Like, the glitches in this game are annoying, but they haven't stopped my experience with the game at all. And who knows? Maybe I'll be competing in a VGC tournament. If you didn't see, Wolf Glick, the probably most well-known VGC player, tweeted out that he might be able to have a Twitch Rivals for Pokemon. And I responded to the tweet saying I'd like to participate. Was that a shiny Passimian? No idea. I was probably not even looking. I am not gonna lie. Even Sword and Shield was fun. It was incredibly linear. See, I found Sword and Shield to be less enjoyable because of the linear nature of this. Because of the game. Like, going back to routes didn't feel like something I wanted to do. And the only place that I ever really did was the open world aspect. Like the wild area. Yeah, there was an Amoonguss hiding behind Passimian. Passimian, I don't think is red at all. Yeah, this Amoonguss right here. There you go. You'll be able to tell that Gabby's on mobile delay based off of how long it takes in between there. Oh, I ran into that Heracross. Yeah, I was in a crowd of them. I did look at that at first and I was confused, but it is. Alright, we got 4 minutes left. Excuse you, you're on desktop for once. So you just need to refresh the stream then, Gabby? Is that what I'm hearing? You avoided work, now you need to actually do things. Well, hey. You only got me here for another, like, 13 minutes. And then you're gonna be stuck doing your work. Because we're getting close to the end here. Refresh stream to ads. I failed Gabby. I failed them. But yes, I appreciate the company. Again, I know that It Gets Better streams are always going to be not as talkative during this because it's not on my main channel. But the company is always nice and the conversations are always good. And that's just, you know, what I'm here for. Again, like I said before, if I can impact one person's day by being on this stream, then I'm proud of that. That's really, you know, a lot of my goal. Yes, I want to grow It Gets Better. Don't get me wrong. I want to see this thing become a huge success. But I also just want to feel like I can, you know, help somebody out on the day. Even if it's just hearing my story and knowing that they're not alone. Sometimes that's the best part of Twitch. I definitely made your day better. I'm happy to hear that. Got 2 minutes left on this thing. Come on, failings. Don't fail me now. We still got 2 minutes. That is plenty of time. It's literally so much time. Like, I could even find 2 in 2 minutes. You know? Look, we're just gonna fly overhead. And the next one we find here is gonna be a shiny one. Right up here. I meant over here. It's not working. It ain't working no more. I just want my little six little duders. 6 little gamers. All lined up. I struck out on 2 different herbs today. Like, I still got quite a couple shinies in my 3 hours. But it is tragic that I had 2 sandwiches that did not net any success. I think we found 4 shinies on the day. 5. We got the Skeeto. We got the Florges. I got the Ralts. The Espathra. Is that it? Is it 4? I think it's 4. With 1 being a dupe, that's not bad. You know, I haven't done this in a little bit. I actually was surprised by the amount of Herba Mystica. You have 4 shiny clips. Gotcha. Yeah, I was honestly surprised by the amount of Herba Mystica that I even had. I thought I had a lot less, and I wasn't going to be able to do, like, sandwiches to hunt today. But I had exactly enough, if not a little bit more, in order to do this. However, I think the sandwich is officially a dud. Yeah, it's done. Alright, I'm gonna restart my game here, but that's gonna be, you know, no more sandwiches. Let's go back on the scene here. So, that's gonna be it on the Pokemon. I got a couple minutes left here, but for those of you that have enjoyed yourself, I will tell you, next month I'm gonna be on again, and my plan is to have a, what's it called? My plan is to try to do Fall Guys with another creator. So, and, you know, talk to them a little bit about what they got going on. So, that is something to look forward to. As for me personally, what do I got going on? Well, tomorrow, I'm getting my hormone injections, which, again, very excited for. Otherwise, the next time I'm going to be live on my own channel is going to be Monday. I'll have a schedule posted there, but in terms of, you know, anything else, you know, today was a good day. I really enjoyed being able to hang out with you all. It Gets Better is always a pleasure to work with and have interactions with. I think that I have never been a part of something that brings me as much satisfaction as working with It Gets Better. I think that the personal joy and feeling of doing something good is why I keep coming back and why I enjoy it as much as I do. And, you know, that's great. That's great. Reminder for anybody who came in from my end of Twitch, follow It Gets Better. There's many a creator that is good and comes on here. You know, it's not just me. Look at this ambassador list. Like, if I go here, you know, look at all these lovely ambassadors that we have here on this page. It's not just me. we got a list of us. It's a good list of people. I think there's definitely a lot of positive. Just a matter of us finding them and interacting with them. But I think with that being said, that's really all I gotta say here. Again, I'll be live on my own personal channel, probably Monday. I'll post a schedule. For those of you that have, again, that are following me and you enjoyed it, consider leaving me a follow personally. I also put out a new YouTube video today. I don't have a command for it here, obviously, but go to my YouTube channel. It's it's Baeginning on there, and go check out that video because I am really trying hard to get the YouTube game going, and that in itself is a difficult thing for content creation. You're pretty much starting over from scratch there, and that is not an easy thing to do, especially when you're so used to having a base, you know? But I think with that being said, let's actually go look at that list again. And let's see which ambassador we want to rate. I rated Emrys last time. And then we got Ellie. We also got, I think Ellie is a good choice. It looks like a cozy game. Very like up, it gets better as Ellie. You know, I think that's where we're gonna go. So I think I can set up the raid myself. Let's see here. I can. I think. Okay, I got it. We're good. Alright. I can't do the command, though. Zaz, you'll have to do the raid command. Oh, no, it worked. We're good. It just took a second. We're good. Alright. Well, thank you all so much for those of you that came by today. Again, It Gets Better is a great place, great resources, and we always have good conversation. I'm never not going to enjoy my time, and I know there's a couple of you that always look forward to it as well. So, much love, much appreciation for all that you allow me to do, and I'll see you next time. Take care.